Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, helping you to find jargon-free information before choosing a professional to help solve your problems and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stuart Andrew Alexander.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And during this segment of the show, I am so pleased that we finally have Vicky Townsend, CEO of the National Association of Divorce Professionals, and she's calling in all the way from Fort Lauderdale in Florida. Now, Vicky, who is a leader in the divorce industry, will be talking to you today about a very interesting topic. She's here to talk to us about how to build a team for your divorcing clients. Now, that sounds like a really interesting topic. So if you are one of the many entrepreneurs in the Fort Lauderdale, Florida area, or even throughout the whole country, and you're out there looking for easy to understand jargon-free information around your divorce-related problems, it might be a good idea for you to, down tools, log out of Facebook, stop the Instagramming and Twittering, or anything else you happen to be doing which may cause a distraction. And you know something? You may even want to pick up the notepad and pen and get ready to take some copious notes as we listen in to what Vicky has to share with us today. So, with that said, let's not keep her waiting any longer. She's a very busy lady. Welcome to the show, Vicky.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so grateful to be here, Stuart. This is just such an awesome opportunity for us to help spread the word about trying to make divorce just a little kinder, a little gentler. So thank you for the opportunity.
You are so welcome, Vicky. We're so glad to have you on the show. So before we get started, let's just take care of some of the legal formalities. It goes without saying that anything you share with us today is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of disseminating information. Now, would you just take a moment to expand on that in your own words, please, Vicky, so that everybody knows exactly what we're doing today?
Well, today we're going to be talking about some things that our listeners, the professionals that are in this process, as well as your listeners that are also going through the divorce process, how they can find a good team of highly vetted professionals to help them help their clients and go through this. And with the idea that this divorce can be done better. Families don't have to be shattered. They don't have to be destroyed. They can simply be changed. So we just want to, kind of get that information out there and connect your listeners with people that vibe with that messaging. They have the same goals. So, if that resonates with your listeners and for your entrepreneurs that might be listening, we hope that they will reach out and get in touch with us so that we can help them build their brand and spread their word and help them be a part of the team.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, Vicky, and thank you so much for clarifying that. So, Vicky, please take a moment to tell us a little bit about the National Association of Divorce Professionals, the people who you serve, and the kinds of situations that they find themselves in when they initially come to you for your help.
Wonderful. Well, the National Association of Divorce Professionals it consists of all of the licensed professionals that help their clients go through the divorce process. Our tagline is because it takes a village, and it's, it's the thicker the IRS tax return, the bigger the village it takes to get that client through this process. So people sometimes will often think about just family lawyers being the professionals that are divorce professionals. But I'm here to tell you that there are other legal matters that have to be handled, such as will and estate and trust planning. And here in the United States, criminal law is involved in 1 out of every 4 cases. There are other bankruptcy law and foreclosure. There is oh my goodness, there's tax laws and, of course, corporate laws in the case of couples that have businesses together, real estate law, because they have to sell their real estate. So there's just a lot of different legal issues that a lot of people don't even think about. And then there's the people that touch their money. So they're accountants that deal with, the tax implications of what the decisions that are made in this process. And there's financial advisors and planners. Even their bankers. What's really interesting is that There are statistics around that show that women, when they go through this process, seek a new financial planner and they seek a new bank. So there's a lot of motion in divorce, even around their mental health, of course, and well-being. So we have counselors and therapists and coaches that are involved, and we also have people that help them with their biggest mutually held assets, primarily being their home, their investment properties, and the businesses that they share together. So that's pretty much what we do. We bring those people together in our chapter settings or online, where they can build relationships and they can get to know one another so that they know who to call for their clients that would need their services. There's no questions about, who to call, what to do. They've built strong relationships. They've helped build that brand, and they call on one another and use one another in the cases that they're all working on, because everybody is working on cases at one stage or another, whether it's with their legal matters, with their money, with their emotional and mental well-being, or with their mutually held assets. So we bring them together to build those relationships.
Okay, thanks, Vicky. So if I find myself in the position where I'm unfortunately facing divorce and I'm looking for a divorce team, what's the advantages of actually having such a team around me?
Well, I'll tell you what the best part is with using somebody that's a member of the NADP, which is National Association of Divorce Professionals. What we do is we vet everyone that applies to our organization. Currently, we turn down about 6 to 8% of everyone that applies. They have to reach a certain benchmark with in terms of how long they've held their license. They have to have no pending disciplinary action against their license. Of course, their license has to be in good standing. We go online. We go to all of the rating sites of all of our members, and there's so many for, each different industry has their own rating sites. And we look to see what the consumer experience is. We look to see what the business to business, their business coworkers feel about them. And the last thing we do is we ask for business referrals, people that have actually referred business to them. And we ask them, what that experience was like. How did he or she handle that transaction for you? Was it the results you wanted? Did he or she answer emails? Was the billing correct? Was it a good experience? Because that's very important to us, because we know that that's a part of what we do here is we refer business back and forth to one another. So we want to make sure that when you are brought in as a team member on the divorce that I'm working on, that I know that you have met that benchmark. So know that everybody in our directory has been held to a very high standard. And honestly, what happens at our NADP chapter meetings and online is we educate everybody about the holistic process of the divorce itself. So in other words, a family law attorney may hear from a realtor about what's happening in their market, what's selling, what's not selling. Are they selling for at asking price, above asking price, or below asking price? How long are they on the market? And the reason that that's valuable is because, a couple might walk into a family law attorney's office and say, we need to sell our house in 2 weeks, or I'm going to burn it down and she's going to be in it. And suddenly that family law attorney can say, well, you know what? I happen to know that $1 million that you want for your house, houses in your neighborhood are going for around $750,000. And instead of 2 weeks, it's taking about 4 to 6 months to sell your home. So the reason that that's important is because it helps you manage your client's expectations of what can happen. And it sets them up and tees them up for success. Either they're going to have to drop their price or they're going to have to learn how to live together for a while. And that's just one of the examples. Other examples are that they learn about maybe new insurance products that they can use to insure spousal support and child support. They can learn about why you should bring in a mortgage broker at the beginning of this transaction before any of the paperwork is signed, so that you set your client up so that they can actually qualify for a mortgage after the divorce process has been signed, because that is a problem. People don't know that based upon the agreement that this couple may come to, that they set themselves up for not being able to qualify for a future mortgage. So those are the types of conversations that we want our professionals to understand, because all of these things are life-altering. The real estate transaction itself can impact families not only in the short term and days and weeks and months and years, but for decades and for generations to come. So we want people to really understand all of the things that are coming at this couple, all of the fastballs that are coming at their face. We really just want them to be teed up for success so that they can bring in another partner from their NADP chapter to help them just knock it out of the park. And that's really what we want, because when we set our client, the client up for success, it's a better landing for everybody.
Yeah, so there's obviously lots of advantages of using a divorce team for anybody out there who finds themselves in that unfortunate position of facing divorce. However, what are one of the biggest myths that you come across, based on your experience, about using a divorce team?
Well, I tell you what, a lot of people, on the consumer side, a lot of people think that the bigger the team, the more expensive it can be. And in some cases, that's true, of course. But when you have a team of experts that really know what's going on, how to set you up for success, in the long run, that can save you a lot of not only money, financial, right? It could be a great financial savings, but it can also be a great emotional savings as well. In other words, you just get to, you get the transaction completed, it's done appropriately, and to the best that anybody can do it for you. So, that the emotional devastation is less severe.
So, Vicky, we're living in an era where information is readily available at the end of our fingertips. We can just go on Google, do a search, and find anything what we need to find. So, with that said, Vicky, it can be very easy to research something online and come up with a preconceived notion of what one believes to be true. However, in your experience, what are some of the most common misconceptions about your industry itself?
Well, that's interesting, because the truth is that the divorce process does not have a bad reputation for no reason. There have been people that have taken advantage of people in a very shattered and broken state. That's why when you become a member of the NADP, you take an oath that says that you are going to put your client's needs ahead of your own. So, but I would say a misconception would be that you have to, you just have to, it costs you everything to get this done. There are a myriad of ways to divorce, from a DIY, a do-it-yourself, all the way up to, a very expansive team and everything in between. Here in the United States, the collaborative method of divorce is becoming very, very popular. And it's here in the state of Florida, but it's all across, it's growing across the country. We now have chapters across the country here in the United States. And the collaborative method is the goal is to be a kinder, gentler way to go through this process with a team of not only an attorney for yourself and your spouse, but some neutrals that are in that process with you in the with your finances, and a neutral that helps with the emotional states in the room, so that everybody can be managed and understood. So that's a new cool process. And then of course, then there's the really hardcore litigation, because sometimes families need a lion for them, a warrior for them in the courtroom, because sometimes there are such high conflict personalities involved that people really need somebody that runs in there and acts on their behalf and really fights for them when they are not able to fight for themselves. So there's a lot of different ways to go through this, and going online is as a bit of a challenge. The one thing that I would say, as opposed to from even going online, is to listen to your friend's divorce, because everybody assumes that their divorce is going to be exactly like their best friend's divorce. That's the biggest misconception, is when you know someone that's gone through it and your expectations are that she got that or he got that, I should get that. And it doesn't always work that way, because each divorce has its own unique thumbprint. So the expectation sometimes is that mine's going to be I'm going to get exactly what she got, or I'm going to get exactly what he got. And it doesn't work that way. So I would say that's the biggest misconception, is that divorce is the same every way you look at it. So I would say, not as opposed to being online, it's really listening to the gossip of the town, right? That so-and-so said that Susie got blah, blah, blah. And that's just not the way that this works. And that way you set yourself up for failure.
Yeah, every case is going to be different. No two cases are ever going to be the same. But based on your experience, then, Vicky, because you've obviously worked with hundreds, possibly thousands of people over the years. What's one of the most common fears that you come across on a regular basis when it comes to building a divorce team for the people who you work with?
Well, I think the biggest fear is how do I even start? There's a lot of other things to take into account when you're doing making a lot of these decisions, and your own personal, and in some cases, personal safety. In a Google search, somebody goes back on a Google search history and sees that, suddenly you're talking divorce and you've got a violent spouse that might go a little crazy on that. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be taken into account. But the one thing that I would say is that the biggest fear that a consumer might have is just, how do I get started? Where do I go? And we have on our website and in our membership, we have divorce coaches that can kind of get you started and show you what that process is going to look like, so that they can help you tee yourself up for success, finding the right type of divorce. They'll understand, what your goals are, what you need to accomplish, and then what kind of process would be the best for you. So that would be something that I would say would be a fear, where to start, how to start. And I would say that could be easily solved with some of the professionals that we have that walk you through that. And that's a divorce coach. So that's just one option.
Mm. So what would you say would be a perceived obstacle that may be preventing the people out there from seeking the help of a divorce professional like yourself?
Well, let me explain one thing that physiologically happens to you as you're going through a very, very stressful time. And the divorce process is the second most stressful event in someone's life, second only to the death of a close loved one. So there is a lot of stress going on. And when you're under that kind of stress, your body produces something called cortisol. It's a stress hormone. And your listeners may be aware of it. It's also a hormone that causes you to gain weight. It's that fight or flight hormone that gets you, in and out of a situation, right? But what it does do is it coats your brain, and it really makes it so that you don't have the ability to make all of the rational decisions sometimes. Sometimes your judgment is off. So what I would say is that give yourself a break. Understand that your brain is flooded with a hormone. What you'll hear, interestingly enough, is you'll hear people that talk about, and myself included, when I went through my divorce, is I felt like I was in a fog for a few years. And when I say a few, it really is, it averages about 2 years for people. And that's because it takes that kind of time to get that cortisol out of your system so that you can start to live and breathe normally, And so when you're going through it and you can't make good decisions, or you don't know what to do, you're confused, don't feel bad about what you're doing. Know that you need support from some people that can have a neutral position for you. Take a look from a 30,000-foot view of what you need to accomplish and how to get that accomplished on your behalf. Somebody that can help you make good decisions with your money, people that can help you make good decisions with your legal issues, people that can make good decisions about your children and your own emotional and mental well-being, and then people that can help you with, your mutually held assets, like your home. Do you keep a home? Do you keep the rental properties, the income producing properties? Because those are totally different things, right? Somebody that can look at this from a non-committal point of view and say, this is what you need to do. This is where you need to go. This is what I would do if I were you. So look for some outside support, only because physiologically you are under such stress that you are not making the best decisions for yourself as possible. So that would be some good advice about, getting past the problems that they face.
Okay, Vicky, thanks for that. My next question is just going to take a little diversion in a different direction, because this one is directed at the professionals that you work with in the National Association of Divorce Professionals. So if you could just please share an example of what really sums up of how you've been able to help divorce-related professionals to succeed in getting the results they wanted when they first sought out the services of the National Association of Divorce Professionals, that would be great. So please go ahead, Vicky.
Oh, I'd love to. One of my favorite stories involves, we have a chapter here in Miami in an area called Aventura, Florida. And we have a family law attorney. Her name is Lauren Gronsky. And Lauren had a client that came into her office, and she was a stay-at-home mom, had stayed at home, I want to say around 13 years, had children at home, and had not worked, but had been so emotionally abused by her husband that she did not believe that she was going to be able to do anything on her own. And he not only told her that, he made her believe it. And so she was a big old mess, as you can imagine. And so Lauren was smart enough and sought out a mental health counselor that was also in that chapter. And together, they worked with this woman. They got permission for the mental health counselor through HIPAA laws to be able to share with her family law attorney the things that she saw that this woman was going through and how to help her get through this process, what was going on behind closed doors, what she was feeling, what was going on kind of behind the scenes that Lauren, as a legal person, was not necessarily privy to. And together, what was so exciting was this woman that did not believe she could be anything is now, she's a nutrition counselor. She got her yoga. She became a yoga instructor, and she opened her own yoga studio, all within a year. And it was because the two of these women, that Lauren and Lori, worked together to make this woman believe that she could do more than she thought she could, and she did. And that was a beautiful story. And Lauren, as the family law attorney, got her through this process. Lori, as the mental health counselor, held her through this and supported her as she made decisions about what she was going to do with her career so that she could, live on her own and support herself. And it is a wonderful story and a wonderful example. And, it's just that it's one of 1,000 stories that I could tell you where people use others. I'll give you one other one. We had a family law attorney in our Boca Raton chapter had a client that had gone through and gotten drunk and became violent and was in jail. So she called on one of the criminal lawyers in the chapter. He got involved, and the client was just a raging ball of emotions and a big old mess, and they just couldn't get the messaging clear to him about what he needed to do and all of the restraining orders that were happening, and he was violating restraining orders and all sorts of things. And so what they decided to do at that point was to bring in one of the mental health counselors from the chapter to help him, this guy that was in jail and having issues. She worked with him to help him manage his emotional states so that he could calm down and get through the process and come out the other side and go through the divorce and get that all done with an emotional state that was manageable, right? He never again caused any problems. He never felt unheard. He never needed to, leave the house drunk and, stealing the family cars and all of the things, the craziness that was happening. So by acting as a team, they were able to, deal with his divorce, deal with his legal issues in the criminal process, and then bring in a mental health counselor that brought that guy down to a manageable state so that all of the other legal issues could be handled and handled well. So that's just another story of how working as a team can work and how we inspire that. We really want that to happen on a daily basis, because that guy would probably still be sitting in jail because he just couldn't get his emotions under check. And because he couldn't get his emotions under check, he was stealing family cards. He was violating restraining orders. He was driving drunk. I mean, a myriad of issues was happening with his family. And once they got the team in there, it never happened again. So I'm happy to report that acting as that collective village really works and really works well to help manage your clients.
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is CEO of the National Association of Divorce Professionals, Vicky Townsend, and her topic is building a team for your divorcing clients. So, Vicky, with that in mind, and for those entrepreneurs who are listening in right now, what's the most common pitfall or even the most common mistake that you'd like to bring to their attention, no matter what kind of situation that they find themselves in?
Well, I think that the biggest, I don't know that it's the word mistake, because I don't think that it's a mistake when you don't know. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is at every NADP chapter meeting, they get an education about some aspect of this process and where it intersects with the divorce. And I'll give you some examples. We have insurance people that sell insurance policies. There are new insurance policies. It used to be that you had to insure spousal support and child support. The only way you could insure that was through a life insurance policy. Well, what would happen if instead of that spouse dying, which they had to do to exercise that insurance policy, what would happen if they just were disabled and unable to go to work and not pay their bills? Or what happens if that person lost their job? And that is a big thing. So now there are insurance policies. Lloyd's of London has one. There's another one called Insured Support. And they offer insurance policies for in the case of a disability or in the case of the loss of a job. So those are the types of things that we talk about at our NADP chapter meetings, so that as a family law attorney or a financial advisor, you can go back to your client and say, these are some new products we need to look at. Or we had a case where they were talking about, there was a couple. He had a home before they were married. And during the course of their marriage, they had paid off, the house had been free and clear. And at the end of the divorce, as a part of the settlement, he gave her the home. And in giving her the home, the one thing that they did not take care of was insurance on the home. Nobody told her to go out and get a new homeowner's policy. They just did a quick claim deed thing because it was already paid in full. And so that the insurance had always been in his name. So she comes home and her home had burned to the ground. And sadly, there was no homeowner's policy to cover it. The home was no longer owned by him. They were no longer married, and the insurance claim was denied. And she was not set up for success. So it's things like this that we want to put in the top of the mind of the people that are coming to these NADP chapter meetings, to learn about other things that these people are going through. And that seems like it seems like a no-brainer, but she lost a beautiful home and all of the equity and everything else in it. I'm throwing out just a couple of examples, but those are the types of things that we want these professionals to understand so that they can help their clients through this process by saying, you know what, you need to make sure that you bring in a mortgage broker at the beginning of these negotiations, so that by the time it's all said and done, that both of you can actually qualify for a mortgage. There are so many times that the divorce settlement statement does not set them up for success. And in not setting themselves up for success, sometimes they end up homeless. And that's a true sad story.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Vicky. Now, you are the CEO of the National Association of Divorce Professionals, and based on what you've shared with us so far, it's clear that you're doing some very important and very impactful work out there. However, I'm sure that the path to where you find yourself today as the CEO of your company just didn't happen overnight. There's always a, there's always a long, meandering, winding path to where one finds themselves today. So with that said, Vicky, can you just please share with us a little bit about your backstory and what was it that inspired or led you to become the CEO of the National Association of Divorce Professionals?
Oh, I'd love to. Well,
I bet.
Well, the truth of the matter is that I am making lemonade out of lemons.
Right.
And my partner, Liz Becker, she's an amazing woman. And she and I got together because I used to do actually something very similar to what you're doing now. I had a website for the consumer. And I wanted, I had been divorced, now more than once. And even despite the fact that I had been through it before, I still messed it up. I still screwed it up. And that goes back to that cortisol story I was telling you about earlier. Your brain is in a fog. It's coated with this hormone, and you just can't make great decisions. So there I was, making bad decision after bad decision again. And, I was determined to impact the client just like you are. And then one day, my partner and I sat down and we decided, we really wanted to make a bigger impact. Who were the influencers over these families and how can we get them together? My partner is a communication skills expert, and she was seeing that, none of the professionals that deal with this were actually communicating with each other. And so what we decided to do was to get them together so that they could build those teams, build that trust, and make a difference in the lives of their families, and then also learn about the holistic, the holistic process so that they could have some empathy and understanding about what that client was going through so that they could be set up for a successful result instead of making stupid decisions. So that was when, the light bulb went off when I said, you know what, I think we can make an impact by getting them together because they definitely need to network with one another because this is a collaborative effort. And they need to know what the other person does and how they fit into this process, right? You're not just going to Google somebody and put a shattered family into their hands because you Googled them. No, you have to get to know them. You have to get to understand their value. And most importantly, you have to trust them. And before you put a family that is absolutely devastated into their hands, you have to know that they are going to be handled well. And so we decided to make this, something that impacted families. It wouldn't impact ours, but that it would impact future families. So we're kind of paying it forward to other families so that they don't have to go through and make some of the stupid decisions that I made. I'm not killing myself over this. I understand what was happening, now that I'm understanding the divorce process better, and I understand physiologically what was happening to my brain at the time. I understand why I wasn't making good decisions. I just wish I had a team to help me through the process, right? I would have done better had I had a team to help me understand even what I was going through on my own, much less what I was coming up against. So it would have helped me, I think, understand and be gentler to myself and kinder to myself because I blamed myself for a lot of the things that went wrong and went sideways. So that's kind of what we did. We decided we decided that instead of dealing with the consumer, we decided to take it head on directly to the professionals that are involved in this process.
So, Vicky, let me ask you this then. So when you think back to all of the clients that you've helped to achieve the transformation that they were looking for throughout your entire career, when you think about the village that you've created, you spoke before about, it takes a whole village. When you think about that concept in of itself and what you've created and the people whose lives have been positively impacted by what you've created, when you think about all of that on a deep down personal level, Vicky, what does that give you? I mean, how does that make you feel?
Oh my gosh! When I tell when I was telling that story of Lauren Gronsky and Lori Shannon and how they worked together to bring that woman who was absolutely a shadow of herself before. And within a year, that was a woman that finally believed in herself and was able to tackle not only her divorce, but had to tackle building a new career. And they helped her together. They helped her do that. And when I'm telling you that story, and even right now I'm sitting here like thinking about it again, I have a huge smile on my face because I know that in my own way, I impacted that family in a very positive way. And so that makes me, that gives me such satisfaction. And I will tell you that I wake up every day and I work on the NADP every day, growing chapters across the country. And I will tell you that I never work a day in my life because I'm doing something that I love every day. And I know I'm making an impact every day.
Right. Right. I mean, man cannot live by bread alone, so as one always says, but it's so much more than money, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's so emotionally satisfying. It really is. Because there's, like I say, the divorce process does not have a bad reputation for no reason. There have been lives that have been destroyed because of this process. So if I can impact it just a little bit, all I want to do is make my dent in the universe. And if my legacy is that I helped people go through this process a little kinder and a little gentler, wow, how amazing is that?
Well, we are certainly going to do our best to help you take a sledgehammer and make more than a dent in the university.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
So welcome.
We appreciate it.
You know, we're running out of time here, Vicky. So before we close out with our last question for today, what's the most important thing that entrepreneurs should consider when evaluating something similar to what you're doing at the National Association of Divorce Professionals?
Well, I'll tell you that we are a one-of-a-kind organization. We're the only one right now that actually brings together all of the licensed professionals that help that family, not just family lawyers, but the criminal lawyers, the will and estate planning, the bankruptcy attorneys, the tax attorneys, financial advisors, bankers, accountants, all of those people that are a part of the team. We're the only organization that brings all of those people together. But I would say, one of the things that I think makes us different is that we vet everybody, and we exclude anybody whose online reputation is somebody that has screwed over their clients, didn't overbilled, didn't answer phones, didn't show up. We've had people that said that their attorney didn't show up on the day of their court hearing. Another one that sent in a junior attorney they had never even met to their court. Stuart, the list goes on and on and on.
Wow.
And those people, quite frankly, are not allowed to be a part of the NADP because we pride ourselves on having really great people that really care about this process for families and have seen the devastation that happens. This is a cycle that repeats itself and repeats itself and repeats itself. And the damage, if you think about it on a bigger scale, Stuart, this impacts our economy. And when people are, constantly going through this process, it's just crazy. There's a documentary called Divorce Inc., I think it's called. No, it's called Divorce Corp. I apologize. And it says that the divorce industry in the United States is more money goes to the divorce courts, the family law courts, than any other court combined. And it's a $50 billion a year industry, $50 billion with a B. And that is that's a cost of, our war in Iraq. That's the kind of money we're talking about. So, if we can, again, I just want to make that dent in the universe, and I want to start there. I want to make the money stay in the hands of families if I can. I want to make the emotional better. I want to make the children go through this in a kinder and gentler way so that parents can understand that using their children as pawns does not make them have a better divorce. It makes their children have a worse life. So we are working so hard on so many angles of this process to make it better. So I wake up every day doing that. But our organization vets, and I think that that's very important. And we give them opportunity to build relationships with those other vetted professionals, so they have a team to choose from for their clients. So that's a little bit about us. I don't know that there's anybody else out there that's even close So I don't know how to answer your question in full.
It does. It does exactly. I kind of thought that you was a category of one, but I still had to ask that question just for anybody out there who may be seeking something similar to what you do, but are unaware that, hey, there's no point in looking anywhere else because you're only...
Well, the one thing that I will say, Stuart, is that as we grow across the United States, we are also interested in growing across the entire globe. So if any of your listeners are interested and they're from outside of the United States, we'd love to chat with them about starting some chapters in their country. Because we've interestingly enough, we've gotten calls from India and South Africa and Australia. So we know, sadly, that divorce is done in all of these countries and more. So we are looking to make that impact on this process on families around the globe. That's a big 30,000-foot view for us, but that's really the goal.
Perfect. And that's a great segue into my final question for you today, Vicky. So if there is somebody out there who feels that they want to know more about building a team for their divorcing clients, one, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you? And two, even more importantly, what will happen when they do reach out to you? So if you could just paint the picture so they know there's absolutely no risk, so they know that you're not going to hit them over the head with the Fred Flintstone club, get them by the scruff of the neck, steal all their money out of their purse.
If
you could just,
Lord,
do that.
Well, what they would do is they would log on to our website, and we are thenadp.com, THENADP, so National Association of Divorce Professionals. And you have to use the word the in there, or else you end up talking to a bunch of dental professionals. So make sure it's thenadp.com. And you can reach us. There's a contact form in there. You can take a look at our memberships, what's involved. We have online memberships as well as in-person memberships, chapter memberships. And as a matter of fact, we've got national conferences, and we've got one coming up this next week here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on the beautiful beach. And with the goal of educating all of our people with, we've got them continuing education credits for just about everybody's license. And we are doing that strategic networking and collaboration so that they can work together. And of course, that's an important part. And if they believe and they vibe with our messaging that this can be done better and this can be done in a kinder, gentler way for families, and we can make an impact on it, we want them to be a part of that. And so we look forward to helping them build their brand, and be the go-to person for that, for the business of divorce, because if they're going to impact it the way we want to impact it, which is to make it less devastating for families, then we want them to be a part of the NADP.
So, Vicky, you've created this village of outstanding divorce professionals. So if there's a consumer who's actually listening, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
They can also do it through the same website, and there's our contact form is in there, and we will be happy to guide them and to some of the professionals that are in their area or in their state. So we look forward to helping as many people as we possibly can through this process. And my promise to you is that we will have our mission of making a positive impact on the divorce the divorce process through the divorce professionals, one professional at a time, and we will always have that as our mission, and it will always be the leading part of what we do, and we will never waver from that. So you will always know that we have that in our mission statement, because we know that the professionals can make an impact on this process too. So that would be the happiest way that we can help your listeners, is to help guide them to people that care and vibe with our messaging that this can be done better.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Vicky. So let me just remind everybody that we have been listening to CEO of the National Association of Divorce Professionals, Vicky Townsend. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Vicky. You have certainly demonstrated that you are a true educator, advocate, and trustworthy advisor for your client success. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Stuart. It's been my pleasure to be a part of this wonderful show, and thank you for all you're doing for the people going through divorce, because I know that you are making your dent in the universe.
Thank you so much, my dear. And I'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to you. Yes, our listener tuning in right now. Without you, we wouldn't have anybody to speak to. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and for joining us on what I can only describe as a very insightful and informative discussion with one of the leading divorce professionals in the Fort Lauderdale, Florida area today. Again, her name is Vicky Townsend. Make sure you do check her out. Visit the website. There are some great resources on there. Reach out through the contact form. Whatever you do decide to do, ladies and gentlemen, I am sure that after spending just a little bit of time with Vicky today, that you are going to be in a great place to get started. So that's it for today, folks. Again, my name is Stuart Andrew Alexander. I'm a long-lost, distant relative of the British royal family, but they don't tell anybody, Vicky. Can you believe that?
We need to stay on the phone. I need to hear about that later.
We need to sort them out, right?
I think so. You know, my name is actually Victoria Elizabeth, so maybe I'm in there somewhere too.
Maybe we're connected in more ways than one. So anyway, we're going to be back very shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.